All right, thank you guys for being here. During the bye, each unit kind of focused on one major thing they wanted to improve upon. Offensively, we looked back and said we really need to clean up the basic fundamentals at each position. Defensively, we need to find ways to get off blocks and tackle cleaner. All right, and then special teams, we wanted to clean up our kickoff unit. So those were the three major things that each unit wanted to focus on during the bye. Obviously, coming off the bye, finding ways to continue to improve as a team and be all in. Now our focus is turned to UAB. Obviously, an exciting game on the road, next conference opponent, and an opportunity to compete for the Battle of the Bones. So this great, huge trophy to our side. But excited to continue to get better, put a great game plan together this week to compete against UAB.
Right. I'm sure you saw the coaching situation over at UAB. Does that change at all, impact your preparation or whatever?
Yeah, Frank, great question. I think we're seeing coaches changes throughout college football. And, you go and look at what UCLA has done, right? The 2 weeks of an interim head coach and the jump they made in some of their wins. So obviously it gives you a little bit of angst because there's some unknowns, right? Obviously, Coach Mortensen's now the interim head coach. He's also the play caller. What does that mean? Are they going to run different things on offense? I know Coach Dilfer was heavily involved in the offensive scheme. So do we need to go back and try to prepare for what may be some uncertainties that we may see, right? Also, that just means maybe they're going to be more open, right? You see some of these teams like UCLA trying a surprise onside kick in one of their games to try to pull off victory. So we're going to have to be very, very sound schematically. And, we don't want to go chasing ghosts, as we say quite often, but we've got to be prepared for possibly everything.
Yeah, so how much does, when you're watching film, how relevant is that film, at least, offensively to your point? How relevant is it?
Well, you hope that, I think it'd be very difficult for them to change schemes completely. Now, we've seen it happen, for sure. But, obviously we got to be ready for some wrinkles. And, like I told Coach Hankins is, yes, there's some things we need to look at and see that they may do differently. But ultimately, what can we do to put our guys in the best position to have success on Saturday afternoon?
I think we hear all the time just how advantageous bye weeks are for teams. Are there anything that maybe you don't like or maybe that works against you coming off the bye?
I hate being away from our players for a couple of days. Now, it was great to be on the road recruiting and finding some future Tigers. But I just enjoy being into a routine, and that's how I'm built, and that's how I think a lot of our guys are. In fact, it was really funny to actually hear some of our players like, yeah, I actually miss being in the building, that's what you want. You want guys that love being around each other, that love the work. But the bye week came at a great time. I think it is good for everybody to kind of take a step back, take a deep breath, a lot of self-evaluation, not only as coaches, as players, but the entire program, things we can continue to do to get better. But then, okay, hey, here we go again. Let's put the pedal to the metal and see what we're capable of moving forward.
You have a couple guys with Bracy and Everett Rusall playing a game against their old team, which obviously that's not some foreign thing with the way college football is now. But just what do you tell those guys before a game like this?
Yeah, just play their game. They're both capable of playing at a high level. This game can't mean any more to them once that whistle's blown, right? They're going to study. They're going to do what they need to. They're going to prepare the right way. But they have to be in the right frame of mind. They have to be in control of their emotions and go out there and play a clean game of football. And we've seen it all the time, right? Guys go back to their hometown, or it may be a game versus Arkansas. No, play within the scheme, play what we're asked to do, and ultimately they'll be fine.
How is Everett coming out of the bye week?
Yeah, I think he's going to be healthy. We'll still continue to monitor him this week, but the expectation is if he is good to go, he'll be able to play on Saturday.
Cooper and Omarion Cooper went out for the last game. How's he? And then Makari Bodiford.
Yeah, Omarion Cooper, we have full expectation that he should be able to go and play at full speed. And then Makari Bodiford will continue to monitor day to day.
One more. Who was it? The lineman, 61. His name, offensive lineman.
Chris Adams?
Yeah, he's been kind of hobbled the last couple of games.
Yeah, the bye week was good for him, and the expectation that he's full go.
Coach, as you sit back and watch college football in your bye week, you saw a lot of shake-up in the top 25, and you see the direction of your program. Do you get excited about the future of what could possibly happen this year?
Well, sure. Well, it was actually unique because for the first time I was able to got home from a high school game on Friday night and actually put it on the television, which is something I normally don't do. In the hotel rooms, I don't turn on the television ever, home or away games. And then actually Saturday, we did practice here on Saturday. I did peek at some televisions throughout the facility, and then Saturday night got home at a decent hour to watch some of those games. And it is unique. You get to see a lot of football being played throughout the country at all different times, or different conferences. And sometimes you're watching it, ooh, that's a unique play. But it's also great to just go out there and see people compete. I'll say this past Saturday was the least stressed I've been in quite a while. So it was kind of nice to be able to be the quarterback from the couch and have all the answers. But when it's all said and done, yeah, look, I'm pleased with where we're at as a program right now, but we know we're going to have to continue to improve in order to sustain that top 25 ranking and maybe move up. But we look at it truly as a 1 week at a time approach. All I can focus on, all we as a program can focus on is the UAB game. And that is the most important game of the season because it's a conference game. Now, if we handle our business there, whenever the polls come out on Sunday, maybe that's going to provide a push for us, great. And then we focus on the next week and then so on and so forth. Like I've told everybody in our program, let's just grind it out week after week after week, 1 week at a time approach, one game at a time approach. And then let's look up when it's all said and done and see what the media and see what the coaches poll think about us.
Does it bug you or that USF jumps you in the poll, or how do you deal with that? Or do you use that as motivation?
We didn't play last Saturday. Look, there's a lot of great teams in this conference. I think there's plenty of teams in this conference that actually deserve to be ranked. We're very fortunate that we'll have the ability to be able to play some of these teams. So no, and look, we don't need any extra motivation. Again, our goal this week is to find a way to put together a great game plan versus UAB and find a way to go 1-0 versus them.
When you look at the transfer portal news moving to January, just how do you feel about where that lined up and what that does for you?
Sure, there are some initial thoughts. Obviously, I'd be guessing, but I'd say there's a fair share of the majority of coaches that said, hey, we want one transfer portal window. And ultimately, in a conversation that could go for about 24 hours, we could have why we think one portal window may be best for college athletics, even the young men that are involved in college football as well. Okay, and ultimately, what led to the January 2nd start date to the January 16th, that was decided. There was some thought of maybe do you have it early March, maybe to allow some of these guys to not worry about bowl games, not worry about playoffs and all that stuff, and they can just truly focus on that. Obviously, December's dead now. The early December signing day for high school student athletes has now totally changed, right? The ability to college coaches now can focus December looking who may possibly be in the portal, handling bowl prep, staff changes, all those things that will come along with that. I'm glad they decided on one window, and then ultimately the dates are what they are. I think it's going to be unique whether you're a school that starts January 3rd, or you're a school like us that starts January maybe 18th this year, or you're a quarter system school. So I think like a lot of those things, we're going to have to figure it out as they come. Obviously, we're going to try to stay ahead of the curve and not wait till that point to focus on that. But that is one of those things I can't really pinpoint too much information on until we actually live it and see what it's like.
And then the other conversation that was coming out in terms of college players being able to bet on pro sports, do you have any of those conversations with your players just about be smart if that ends up happening? Just what are those dialogues?
So first and foremost, we stick with what the current rules are, and no ifs, ands, or buts. We don't even get near that gray line. We are as far away from that as we can. So right now, all I know that I've been told is anybody in our program, right, from myself to the grad assistants to any of our student athletes, we cannot bet on any sports that have a collegiate sport as well, right? So I always tell them all the time, like we'll say it also, WNBA game, can we bet on it? No, sir, right? A women's softball game, can we bet on? No. All right, can we bet on a UFC fight? Can you go play cards? Sure, so we talk to them those things and just continue to try to educate them. But if that does change, then we will talk to them. We do have financial literacy programs offered throughout the off season. But if that is something that comes up, we know how important NFL is and what that looks like, and we'll have those discussions if that comes to light.
Coach, we've seen you at the high school games a lot lately, and it's a lot of kids in the city of Memphis that desire to play in the blue. What kind of advice could you give these kids that want to play for the University of Memphis?
Yeah, first and foremost, we've got tremendous high school football talent in this area. It's so much fun to be able to get out and see some of these local schools because they care. And it's great because they actually care about the University of Memphis. We know our success is going to be ultimately be good for them, and their success is going to be great for them to maybe have the opportunity to play for the University of Memphis. We got some great coaches, great staffs. Obviously, a lot of these young men are doing well in what they need to do academically in school as well. But for all those young men that have aspirations, I don't care if it's to play at the University of Memphis, if it's to play at Rhodes College, if it's to play at Tennessee State, right? First and foremost, handle your academics. That is the number one thing. When we're actually recruiting a young man, the very first thing we do is look at their grades. If their grades aren't on par with what we ultimately want to bring into our program, it's a no-go. Then we call people. We call the head coach. We find the recruiting coordinator at the school. We ask the principal. We ask people that are involved in these young men's lives on a day-to-day, okay, tell me about the character of this young man. Would he fit our culture? Would he make it and fit into this all-in that we've been able to provide here at the University of Memphis? Is he the type of young man that I want in our locker room to bring into our family? Then we check those two boxes. Okay, if those are both a fit, then, oh, by the way, can they play football? And can they play football at a really high level? We want to recruit to a top 25 program in the country regardless of where we're at in the standings. And ultimately, do they check that box as well? Are they athletically gifted enough? Are they someone that we can believe in? Can we develop into being a top talent player? So for all high school, I don't care if it's a rising ninth grader or a rising senior, right? Put in the work academically, make sure you're handling your business on and off the field, and ultimately keep grinding, put your head down, and good things will come.
What's the most scariest thing about this game coming up at the UAB? Game day could be in the future if you take care of business this week. Do you take them back to, or you throw any Tulsa film on there to sort of like, without that field goal going wide left, it wouldn't have happened, or and Cotton Bowl wouldn't have happened? What do you say to them, or do you even talk to them?
Won't talk one bit about it. In fact, that word you mentioned about the production that came here, I won't talk one bit about it because that has nothing, absolutely nothing, Jarvis, to do with where we're heading, what we're about this week. We're gonna have our hands full preparing for UAB with some changes in their coaching staff. It's a conference game, right? We're hopping on a bus heading down to Birmingham, and look, we've seen what they're capable of. Their quarterback leads the conference in completion percentage. So look, there's going to be some challenges. They've got a D-line that gets off the ball and plays ferocious. They've rotated a lot of different guys in the secondary that are capable of making plays. And we know what it's like. It's hard to go on the road and win in this conference. And so ultimately the focus on the task at hand and trying to find a great way to prepare for this week.